Hyperbarics for Heroes,
a hyperbaric chamber,
and Hyperbaric.
Hyperbarics for Heroes.
While most people associate the chambers with physical healing, it turns out they can also provide therapy for mental issues as well.
We're doing hyperbaric air, so there's no hood, there's no mask, and you're in here able to talk.
People in there like mold toxicity, Lyme disease, or stroke victims, or have renal failure, liver problems, and so on.
And this will help them. If it helps one, is it not worth getting them into the chamber? Welcome to everybody to Hyperbarics for Heroes. We're doing another segment with another provider that we met a week ago, and he's got some neat things to talk to our veterans about that are kind of off the path. I mean, it's off-label. It's something that a lot of my veterans haven't heard about. So I wanted to drag you in here and have some conversation about it. So who I've got here is Josh. Josh Graston is with Beehive Blends. And are you out of Tulsa? Is that correct?
Absolutely. So Beehive Blends, that company's out of Tulsa. I'm with a couple of different companies altogether.
Where do you hang out most, Oklahoma City or Tulsa?
I bounce back and forth between, honestly, about 2 days a week at each place.
Okay. So we had you come in and you met Lyndon. This is Lyndon Kinder. Lyndon has been diving with us. He's diving with us so long that he turned into a volunteer, and he's actually running the dives about 3 or 4 days a week. And he is doing most of the dives with my veterans, and he's a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate your service, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Can't tell you that enough. It's amazing what you guys have done, guys and gals. We got some gals that are going to be diving with you today that are kind of new to our diving, and I'm anxious to get going with you. I would like to ask, how did you get into this crazy business?
Absolutely.
Of CBD, cannabinoids? I'll kind of let you guide that.
We typically say plant-based medicine altogether. The way that I got into that, man, I was a patient. I was on 16 pharmaceuticals, everything from opioids to anti-anxieties, antidepressants, antipsychotics.
You sound like a veteran, and I know you're not a veteran.
I know I didn't serve. I went through 6 open abdominal surgeries that changed the course of my life. And I found myself dependent upon 16 pharmaceuticals, not even to live, but just to survive. And Big Pharma and the government told me I should just file for disability and give up. And I didn't accept that. And so I became the scientist that I needed. It started with me inventing the technology to time release anything that grows from the ground that would see me work my way ultimately into the cannabis industry. At first, it was kind of the easiest point of entry. And we've been in that for about 5 years, have since expanded to the hemp industry, where we have a nationwide and international presence. And now into the nutrapharmaceutical industry, which is basically just plants, herbs, adaptogens, mushrooms, trying to get people off of pharmaceuticals. And so across those different scopes, we've developed some pretty amazing products that we've heard from patients over the past 5 years or so have helped with just a litany of different things.
Be careful of the language you use because it will get banned on all of the social media. So maybe come up with a creative term or way to say that.
Which part?
The cannabis.
Okay.
Plant-based.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll stay with plant-based.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Lyndon, what kind of started all this, Lyndon came to us. He is a burn pit victim in the military, and he's got lots of, I'll let Lyndon tell you what he came here for, what he's found so far, and what I think is really something that's going to be synergistic working with you and my veterans and Hyperbarics. I think there's a synergistic value that 1 and 1 equals 3. Absolutely. And that's why I wanted to connect with you. And Lyndon, what's happened with you so far, and why did you start, and where are we at?
Okay, so my deal, I got diagnosed with something called constrictive bronchiolitis, and it's deadly. 7 to 10 years is the life expectancy once you get diagnosed with that. And so I started doing research, and I found out that Hyperbarics could help with this. And so I started doing it back in, I think it was like May or June. And so I've probably done 190 to 200 dives since then.
Because you're running the dives now, our program covers the first 40. And then at the end of that, you said, hey, Paul, I want to be involved. How can I be involved? So that's why the numbers and if the numbers have to get up there to get the kind of results you're getting, let's continue. I mean, I'm all about making that time frame that you gave me earlier has been expanded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's they took the death sentence off my head essentially, and they think I might have something that's quite a bit less serious, and so they're thinking it's like hypersensitivity pneumatitis versus constricting bronchiolitis, and so that's very good news for me. And I went through some of my medical records today, and I compared a pulmonary function test that I did a year ago with the one that I did last week, and it showed a significant improvement in almost every category, and that's without taking my medication first. And so that's we're definitely on the right track as far as getting my lungs taken care of. So
when we were in the chamber, I said, Josh, what do you do for the veterans that have all this bronchial, all this pulmonary issue? And he goes, we fix them. I mean, we have things that will help them.
We definitely we can't make medical claims.
Right.
We're not doctors. I have to begin there. Let me quantify a little bit something we touched on earlier. So what I actually do, I'm the director of integrative medicine and research for one company. I'm the director of scientific operations for another, and I'm a chemist for a third. So this is what I do. It's all I do. And so we've been very blessed to hear from a lot of patients, including veterans, including guys that have been in the burn pits, people that were exposed to toxic fumes, people that were exposed to chemicals, people that were exposed to just too much smoke, firefighters as well. We've heard from these people that we've been able to vastly improve their quality of life in a couple of ways. One of those is by helping with that systemic inflammation. So dealing with it on a root cause level, and then also dealing with it on days that things are agitating.
So what is the mechanism of action? What is it that this doing plant-based medicine is actually doing?
So if we had to kind of have to go to studies there, but studies show that the combination of certain minors like your CBD, CBG, CBC, CBN, that what we can do is that we can repair the damage that's there, prevent the furthering of damage. With your initial diagnosis, it was just going to continue to get worse until you died, right?
Basically.
And so now it's not something it's still going to get progressively worse, but it's not going to kill you. In reality, your body has all the tools to fix this. Let's be very clear. What we're actually doing is we're putting the body in a state of homeostasis. The body is then able to fix itself. Mm-hmm. Now, how these things work to some extent are not studied enough because of the government. Right. When you schedule substances, you make it very hard to research them. When you do, you can ask one question at a time, but the person that's asking that question usually has a vested financial interest. So nobody really sees the data as valid. At the same time as the government is going about making pharmaceuticals with these things, filing their own patents and making a pathway for them to control it, they're making it hard for people like us. So we've more focused on just actually helping and finding out how we can help. And, with our veterans, the primary way that we do that is we have a daily capsule. It's called our ground control capsule. It utilizes that time release technology that I was telling you about. And it gives an all day dose of those minor cannabinoids that really put that body in the state of homeostasis. An all day dose of CBD. In the middle of the day, it comes in with some CBC to help you with some energy and focus. In the afternoon, it comes in with some CBG to help with that mid-afternoon slump, and also to help with the pain relief that a lot of our veterans need towards the end of the day. And then at the very tail end of the day, it has a minor dose of the CBN to help them get to sleep. And then from there, we have effect-specific products for each thing, whether it's pain, whether it's, mental anxiety, whether, stress relief. We've kind of tailored each of those things to have both a preventative frontline version, not preventative, that's the wrong word, a frontline daily version, as well as an as needed version or a rescue version, as it were.
So it's crazy. All these veterans that I've met through our program, I'm always worried about their PTSD, mm-hmm. their TBIs, their brain injuries. Mm-hmm. It's all, it starts out as we're having this cognitive conversation. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing that every one of them are muscular skeletal deficient. They've
Mhm.
been beat to pieces.
Mhm.
And just like Lyndon came in and he's got a bone, he's got things going on with his bone mass.
Mhm.
And what happened? What have you seen change in that as you've been doing hyperbarics? And then we'll spin back around, look at this product for a while, and then come back, bring everybody back. And I'm anxious to do the follow up
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
this because this is a beginning for a lot of these guys,
Mhm.
and I want them to be able to come back and tell their story. So, what have you found with hyperbarics on the muscular skeletal?
Okay, so I broke my spine in 2019, and I got diagnosed with severe osteoporosis. And
And you're how old when this happened?
I was 32 when this happened. And so I broke another vertebra since then, and I don't even know how I broke it, honestly. And yeah, since I started doing this, I've noticed my bones feel stronger. I haven't done another DEXA scan to prove anything, but
That's
I'm
in the near
yeah,
future, isn't it?
yeah, within the next couple months, I'll
Yeah.
do another DEXA scan. And so once I do that, we'll know some more. But it's I've broken several bones in the last 15, 20 years, and they finally diagnosed me with severe osteoporosis.
Now you've
But-
got some plant-based background as well.
Yeah.
What have you done on your own?
Well, I mean, I've been using cannabis and or I can't say cannabis, can I? I've been using plant medicine for years on my own, and I've been able to severely reduce my dosages of pain medication and also get off of almost every other medication I'm on. I got rid of all of the PTSD, anxiety, depression type stuff, and I've
how many of those were you on when you started looking for another route?
I was on 15 meds at one time, and now I have it down to 4. So, I've gotten rid of everything.
some
I
of that's
can,
bronchial.
basically. Yeah.
So, I mean, out of the 15 and you're down to 4, you're kind of left with the bronchial items.
And a couple of I'd take Lyrica for nerve pain, and then another pain reliever, but that's basically it.
Now,
Plus,
so
the bronchial.
curcumin,
yeah, I use curcumin.
and that helped alleviate some of these other meds.
Definitely.
Another plant-based. I mean, there's
as you mentioned, that one of our products. This is actually from that other company I mentioned, My Ladder Labs. This is called Acumen TR, and it was initially designed actually as a plant-based alternative to Ozempic, right? But it utilizes the same time-release technology, but it's got a lot of good plant medicine like your curcumin, piperine, holy basil, your Jemima sylvestre. And we've been seeing just amazing things with that as well, just becoming kind of a good metabolic digestional regulator. Because one thing that a lot of veterans suffer with that we don't really talk about is the digestional effects of being on all these opioids.
Yeah.
The way that affects your appetite, the way that it affects your bowel movements and all of these things. And that's really part of, really what we want to do is help to get off of those things that, they're giving us to treat us that don't really. And part of the reason that we can really explain why this is working so well is everybody has an endocannabinoid system, not just everybody, but every animal with a spine has one, right? And it's like a sponge in our body. Now we naturally produce a couple of those, the 2-AG and then andamide, right? But if we don't naturally produce enough of those and we let that sponge of our body go dry, everything that system is responsible for dysregulates. And that system is responsible for the signaling of a lot of your emotional, your pain regulation, and basically the balance beam of your body. And so when we properly feed that, not necessarily just with the things that get you elevated, but with the things that your body actually needs, and combine it with the great other therapies like the hyperbaric and, reducing our stress and eating right and sleeping, we're seeing things that they say can't be cured. Patients no longer have diagnosis of.
no evidence.
No evidence of disease. We have one patient, she's one of really close to my heart. She has an AIDS diagnosis, and so you use the CD4 count as an indicator of how her immune system is functioning. When we met her, it was like under 100. And whenever I not lost contact, I guess, but whenever she just became another patient in the program, she was over 400. She was at a place to where even though she had an AIDS diagnosis, she could not pass it on to anybody else. She could get pneumonia and her immune system would still fight it off, even though she had AIDS, because our body has these systems that are designed to fight back. And we've just ignored since the 1940s, since we made it illegal, we've ignored these systems in the body. And I love, it may be off the beaten path, as it were, but before 1940, if you went into Walgreens, it was 8 of 10 bottles on the shelf. If we went back 1,000 years to India, it was there. If we went back 2,000 years to China, it was there. And all of these things were there. And so I think it's really a rediscovering of the path.
Mm-hmm.
It's not off the path. We're rediscovering the path. And we're discovering things that we knew all along that for whatever reasons, whether it was money or just society, we took away.
They synthetically tried to duplicate everything that comes out of the past. And the only reason they were doing that is so they could call that a drug. Because if they didn't synthetically duplicate it, then it would be a plant-based item that we were taking.
If you could grow everything you needed, from your food to your medicine, what would we need government for?
Mm-hmm. So what about, we talked in the chamber, I've got a lot of clients in the chamber that, let's put the veterans aside for a second, and they suffer these same things. What about dementia, Alzheimer's? What about
absolutely
neuropathy is another big one that I've got so many of my clients come because Hyperbarics helps all this. But I'm missing something. I want to see more. I want to see better. And that's where I want to get synergistic using these other products. So how do we address and what do people not understand is out there? I mean, you see all these neuropathy clinics popping up everywhere, and it's a TENS machine combined with red light therapy. And so what is it that is going to help those clients?
A lot of that, we're really kind of dealing with the same issue as a lot of the drugs that are on the market for it don't actually deal with the pain. They deal with the way the mind interprets the pain, to where you're actually still in the pain. You're just not feeling it.
It's masking the symptom.
Yeah, even saying that just feels kind of sickening. So we need to use the body's natural systems to fight that. And how we do that is plant-based medicine. Some of those alternative treatments, I think that they do help. I think that everybody's got a little piece of the truth. But in most cases, and I don't mean to sound cliche here, what we've seen is almost anything can be helped with plant-based medicine, since our body has the entire system and that endocannabinoid system to receive and to utilize it. And again, it's not about getting elevated. Most of our,
now, when you say getting elevated, getting high.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not referring, most of all of these have none of that really in it. It's about,
these are able to be shipped all over
absolutely.
the country.
These are all farm bill compliant. They can be shipped everywhere in the country and even internationally to some countries.
Don't require a card.
You've got to be 18 to order, just because of the credit cards, to be honest, I think. We've even got some for your dogs, because again, everything with the spine has an endocannabinoid system, and we're answering the calls from patients that are just like the ones that you're having. And we've got a lot of those that are dealing with neurodegeneration,
which is the myelin sheath. You said that these products, you've got blends that will help rebuild the myelin sheath.
Research shows that you can regenerate your myelin sheathing in your brain. And the deterioration of the myelin sheathing is a big part of dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's and other neurodegenerative diseases. And so we can, slow down the progression of the ones that are going hard. And we can also reverse in some cases, or what we've heard, patients report that they've reversed. And we've seen patients, we've got some patients that every day are coming back to lucidity versus being fully gone from their own realities. We've seen patients with essential tremors go from this to actually making paintings that are being sold at auctions, things that if this was 1,000 years ago, they'd be calling miracles, we're seeing on the daily basis. And it's not what we're doing. It's just that the body is designed to receive these things in the same way that almost everybody's body has the same reaction and benefits to hyperbaric, right? We're seeing the same things from plant-based medicines. And especially as we start to incorporate a lot of these other herbs that have been used culturally for thousands of years, these other adaptogens and the other non-psychoactive mushrooms, we're just seeing even more amazing results across the board from patients.
When we get into cognitive decline, and Lyndon sees this here as well, and probably not the extent I have because I got a lot of years in this, but it's crazy how many people come in and they say, hey, I see mom or dad slipping. They put their keys in the refrigerator or whatever. but they're in cognitive decline, and they notice it early on. And we'll have a 1 hour meeting, and I lay it out how important it is to get started, because you're noticing it. It's not going to get better unless you address it. The chamber will slow that down. We see that being a decent therapy. We have ways of tracking using a MOCA test, using the right eye exam as some of the tools that we use. We utilize red light therapy and synergistically with the chamber. But it's crazy. I'll have a 1 hour meeting, and then 2 years later, I get a phone call. Hey, we think it's time for mom or dad to start now. And I'm like, no, we talked 2 years ago how important it was to start 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Because whatever we've lost in those 2 years are going to be more difficult. We're not going to regain. The longer you go without starting, the less outcome you're going to have. It's so important to get on the front end of it.
Absolutely.
Do you see that as well?
100%.
Yeah.
I think to some extent that is a societal outcome from medical and big pharma. Nobody likes going to the doctor.
No.
Nobody likes getting bad news. And we've become afraid of treatment because of we know that big pharma typically doesn't cure, And so that mentality comes over to these alternative treatments that we've seen amazing things from on both sides of the coin. And my thing is, I think these things should be a part of everybody's life, everyday life. It's not even just preventative. To me, it is the more lifestyle it becomes to actually take care of our bodies and feed the different systems and things that we have going on, the much easier than it is to deal with all of these things that we're seeing people deal with on the backside.
When you look at pharmaceutical costs, which are just crazy, I mean, some of them are just, I'm like, how do people do that? I saw on Nextdoor the other day, somebody said, I got a $450 drug I need to take, and I don't have $450. And so they're not taking it, and they don't know all the backdoor ways to get that pharmaceutical, which there are some. And it was amazing. There were 70 replies to this person talking about the cost of this pharmaceutical, and everybody talked about how to get the pharmaceutical. Not one person. I wanted so bad to go on there and say, what is it in your lifestyle that needs to change so that you don't have to have that pharmaceutical? Nobody's asking that question. And that just absolutely blows my mind that none of that was said. 70 people told them how to get the drug.
Yeah.
What if we don't want it? Anyway, it really was unusual.
That was a big part of why I ended up getting into the business that I did. Originally, again, I was never seeking to make a business. I was just trying to get off pharmaceuticals for myself. And once I had made that medicine for myself, I actually went around and approached a bunch of businesses and tried to give it to them to steward, because I just wanted it to be available in the world. But greed became so ready and apparent that I decided I had to do it myself. And so we've even initiated programs on both sides of the coin, whether it's the medical card holding patients or whether it's just the patients all over the country. We have a program for our cancer patients where they don't pay anything. We have a program for our veterans on the medical side to where they don't have to pay anything. We have a program on the national side called the Major Tom program, to where anybody, you just message us and you say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm managing in life. And we send it to you for $7 a month plus shipping. And the only reason it's $7 a month is we're, based out of Oklahoma and Utah, and it's illegal to sell stuff for less than it costs to make. So I have to volunteer my time. I have to volunteer all these things to where I can get it down to that $7 a month, to where once you add shipping, it's 50 cents a day. So we help people with what we consider to be, I'm going to use a hunting term here, what we consider to be the best shotgun for diseases, for illnesses, for things that you're managing your life, the best shotgun we could make for 50 cents a day. And that's because I grew up on the Sarah McLachlan generation. You can help a child in Africa for a cup of coffee a day. So why should our medicine that grows in nature be more expensive than that? And even the stuff that we put out, to the retail level nationwide, there's nothing that's costing people hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month, because it shouldn't.
Well, they'll tell you that it was R&D is the reason for the cost. It's not the components.
Yeah,
it's what it took to get it approved through the FDA.
I agree. I think it takes a lot of research and development to try and not cure something, but just manage to kind of treat it for the rest of somebody's life. I think that costs a lot of money.
Well, Lyndon has a great background, obviously, in the military. He knows a lot of the deficits our veterans are dealing with. He sees lots of stories in here. You come out of plant-based medicine. You've had some insight to that because you kind of grew up when I think your wife, I forgot, you just got married. So your wife is still involved with it.
Mhm.
So do you have anything that you want to add to what Josh is talking about that is concerning to our veterans that would give them a path? How do we include them on what we're talking about and give them the relief they're looking for?
I think a big piece of what's missing is education, because people do not know how to use cannabinoids properly. And I think if we can get, the education piece, brought up to speed, a lot more people will use them, once they figure out what they can do, and I think that's, a big piece of it, is it people just don't know,
I think, to some extent, we're trying to address that as we go. But part of how we've done that is in the design of our products. For example, the capsule, since it's time released, you take one a day, right? So we've made that really easy. You take it in the morning, you get to go about living your life. The other sprays where they're meant to be, I took my capsule in the day, but I'm just having a real bad pain day. My neuropathy's kicking up, life's just kicking my butt. Well, we grab our pain spray, and the serving size is one spray held under the tongue for 7 Mississippis. And we jokingly say that because you put it under your tongue and you count to 7 Mississippis. By the time you hit 5, whatever you were previously focused on, that donkey that kicked you in the knee, is no longer there, and you realize you're just counting. And we've heard from patients, it takes most people's pain from an 8 to a 3 with just that spray, right? And then again, we make these very specific, so vivid for focus and energy, right? The days that the PTSD is just making it, the depression, really hard to do anything. Put a spray under our tongue, 7 Mississippis, and we're able to get up and go about our day, right? The ones that we just feel like we can't breathe and our chest is too tight because everything's too heavy, we named this Exhale. It's after the movie in the 90s with Whitney Houston called Waiting to Exhale. At the end of the movie, she goes, we all know, I'm about to cry. We all know that feeling where we need that. That's exhale. You put it under your tongue, and by the time you get to 7, you're getting goosebumps on your skin and you're breathing again. And then at night, for our veterans, when the demons won't go away and when you got to turn off the overhead fan, Nocturne, right now it's in a dropper bottle, but next week it moves to the spray top as well, because we're trying to make everything super easy. The topical that we have, you're able to just put it on within 15 seconds, feel relief. And so we've kind of tried to take away a lot of the stigma of plant-based medicine, tried to make it more accessible. We're even working on what we call some intention and education guides, to where when the patients receive it, it's like, hey, here's how we made this. Because we go to extra levels that other people don't. We believe in a lot of the alternative therapies. And so when each medicine's made, there's a specific sound frequency that's going on in the room. There's a specific color light frequency that's going on, down to the materials that we're wearing are pure linen fabrics. And even though we can't quantify how much these things matter, we're hearing from our patients how different these medicines are even from the other ones in the industry. And we believe it's because of those levels of intention that we're going to. And so we're just trying to figure out how to educate and get that to the patients, because again, the more that we educate you guys, the more you're empowered, the more you become an active part of your own healing. Because at the end of the day, my goal is just to be able to let our veterans live life.
Something that I'm dealing with right now. In fact, leading up to this podcast, I had a conversation with a gal that called me from San Antonio. She's got, it's not a veteran in this case, but she's got somebody that's very heavily mold. 22 years mold, last 15 years not able to leave the house. And she's coming from San Antonio to bring him here tomorrow. Have you ever messed with the mold aspect? Is there anything in your product line that deals with, because there's an Air Force base real close by that's got a lot of sick buildings, and I'm getting a lot of sick people from there, and they've done everything. I mean, they don't, I'm searching and asking questions. Have you ever dealt with the mold issues?
I'll be honest, we've dealt with it on like more a small residential issue than large or fallout from any corporate or any living situations. But the same answer would still kind of apply. 99% of Americans have severely undernourished endocannabinoid systems. And that just means that their bodies are not equipped to fight back.
They're run down.
Yeah, they're run down. You know, and we address how much sleep we need, we address how much food we need, how much water we need, how much of a work-life balance we need, but we don't address this balance beam of our body. It's like the forgotten toy on the playground. So from what I've seen, you know, from 60,000 patients that we've dealt with, there's been about 5 that our products have not helped. 4 of them were my ex-girlfriends, and you can read whatever you want to into that. So you know, it's really.
I was wondering how we were going to get to the ex-girlfriend. There
Yeah,
you go.
I had to work it in somehow.
Yeah, that's got to come up on everything.
It does,
Anyway,
it does.
well, do you have anything else, Lyndon? I mean, where do we? I know, just so everyone knows, we've got a chamber full of people, of veterans, that are getting ready to get in the chamber with Josh. He was kind enough to come down. He's going to assess them one at a time in the chamber, see what their needs are. He's going to find a program for them to help them, you know, recover from whatever they're dealing with, or have some therapy, some way of treating. Then we're not treating some way
whatever
of addressing
they are
what they're
managing.
dealing with.
Yeah, we're going to help them with whatever they're managing.
And what a deal that you're doing for the veteran population. I'm real excited about starting this, and there's a lot of them out there hurting.
Well, and here's the crazy thing too, and my business partners didn't know I was going to say this, but they didn't answer their phones before I came on with you guys. Any of our veterans today that need any of these medicines will actually get them at like what's considered our wholesale cost, or what stores would normally get it at, which means they're going to get it at about a 50% cost savings. And any of them that follow up with us because of this will also get that. Because again, we're really just here to help. And like you said, there's a lot of misinformation out there. And even if you just Google CBD products, there's so many. And there's so many people that are.
I get it.
So many people that are trying to make money. We just want to make a difference. We believe that profits are a side effect of helping people the correct way.
Well, they'll beat a path to your door if you can show that people get good results.
Absolutely,
No doubt about
yes,
it.
Sir.
Well, do you have anything else, Lyndon?
Yeah. Were we going to talk about the burn pits?
Well, yes.
Some more?
I mean, that's what this kind of led off with. So
Yeah.
please open that door and let's talk about it in depth.
Okay, so you want me to just go over what they
Well,
are?
I want people to know about Burns Pits 360, number one, and what are the burn pits? Why do people suffer these pulmonary issues? I'd like for you to
Okay.
expand on that.
So on pretty much every base overseas, when you're in Iraq or Afghanistan, for example, we didn't have any way to get rid of our trash, and so they burned everything. And the base I was at in Afghanistan, it was called Camp Buka, and we had probably about a 2-acre burn pit, and it was just a smoldering pile of trash that always smoked, you know.
With a guy
So-
on a bulldozer pushing it around so that it would consume.
You know, they would push everything in their vehicles, body parts, plastic, a
bottle.
lot of plastic bottles. I think the plastic bottles are probably what did the most damage, you know, honestly, because whenever you burn them, they put off dioxins and all that.
Burning batteries is going to be
Mhm.
another huge issue. Tires, they
Batteries,
burned all the
tires,
tires.
paint.
Yeah.
You know, anything you could think of and everything you could think of got, you know, thrown in there. And so that's why a lot of guys are having trouble with and girls are having trouble with their breathing, you know, issues and stuff now.
I had one of my veterans that came a couple of years ago, and I think he's out in New Hampshire now, but he's got airlifted to Germany out of one of those bases because he just about died, and it was only from this toxicity. And so he was telling the story of when he'd come off shift, when he was done with his duty schedule. He'd come into the barracks, and when they came in, they'd walk in and they'd go get a wet towel and put around the door to keep the soot that's coming in off of the. Well, then he would walk to his bed, and as he walked, it was poof, 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 because it was already in their barracks. There was no keeping it out.
Yeah.
And so how do you live in a situation where there's that much soot and there's no way to get away from it because it's there? And so the PACT Act made what was called, go ahead and lead into that.
It's called the Sergeant Keith Robinson, I think, honoring your PACT Act is the full name. And so it covers, it makes a lot of cancers and breathing conditions presumptive. And so that means you don't have to prove to the VA for disability that caused your issue. You just had to be in theater at the time and have a certain condition. And so that, cut through a lot of red tape, and it's helping a lot of people now. And an organization that I have helped with in the past called Burn Pits 360, they kind of spearheaded that, the PACT Act and everything.
That's
so,
really good, because it definitely should be a presumptive and assumptive that you're going to have it. I almost wish there was preventative care for everybody that was in those theaters during those times.
What happens, it's the Agent Orange of today, because it doesn't settle in until 10 to 14 years later. You start having the very first indication that you've been poisoned. And then by the time you go and get checked out because you're feeling like you're got problems, and they find this poisoning, you're 15, 16, 17 years in, and you're on the way out because you are in such bad shape. And that's what a lot of my veterans that showed up, they didn't know that they had this issue. It's becoming more known now because of the PACT Act and the presumptives that have been associated with it. So anyway, crazy deal. Got anything else on the burn pits and what that's all about?
I think we pretty much went over everything, but I mean, it's just important that if you have been exposed to the burn pits, that you be proactive about your care. If you start having breathing issues, get in immediately and try to get evaluated and figure out what's going on. And then, if you're local, come get in the chamber.
Your whole deal kind of started here in Oklahoma City, and they worked and they weren't able to show much improvement.
Yeah.
And they sent you to Colorado. Where did you go?
I went to National Jewish Hospital in Denver, and it's the best pulmonology hospital in the whole country.
And that's who really turned you around, isn't it?
Yeah, they diagnosed me with, I want to say, 8 or 9 different conditions that were from the burn pits. And then they came up with a treatment regimen, and, they got me on the nebulizers I take now and all that. So it's, I take 2 bronchodilators and a steroid every day. And so, with those, I'm, making progress. And then with this also,
one thing that we love about plant-based medicine and that we've heard from patients is a lot of times when you do, thankfully you guys have been able to get the care that you need for the pulmonary issues, still doesn't address the PTSD issues that come along with those and the other comorbidities that are caused by these things. And that's the other way that plant-based medicine can come in there, is it really touches to almost every one of these things, whether we're talking, pulmonary protective, whether we're talking about scar tissue reduction, increasing blood flow to specific places, reducing the body's ability to clear the foreign bodies that are left over in there. All of these things can benefit from that. And so I definitely think, not just for our veterans, really for everybody, but especially for the people that protected us, that we ended up putting through so much, this is just really vital. And sadly, the VA is not going to educate you on it.
It's amazing how many people come to me with PTSD that are not military, and other people that aren't aware of that kind of trauma affecting you long term.
Yeah.
They think PTSD is only military. I did not serve. I am serving now by working with my veteran population, and that's how I give back. But when you meet these people and they give you this trauma that they've been to, I'm always telling my veteran population, oh, well, I didn't serve, I wasn't in battle, and blah, blah, blah. And I go, dude, if I had to put up with a drill instructor, that would be PTSD to me, because I wouldn't handle that very well. And so everybody has an opportunity for PTSD. It's just not people that serve, not just our first responders, but there's a lot of trauma that points to PTSD. You mentioned something about a nighttime. I hear the term, and you didn't use it, night terrors. I hear that term all the time. I have people that come in that say they have night terrors, and I know that this plant-based medicines are able to suppress that.
Well, we've heard from so many patients on that issue, from kind of to run down the sleep side of it. We've heard from patients as far as the benefits of falling asleep, the benefits of staying asleep. We've seen some sleep study data on the benefits of getting into REM sleep. We've heard from patients in the reduction of sleep paralysis and night terrors. We've heard from parents and children that are no longer having issues with the bed. That's on the medical side with the pediatric patient licenses. And so we're hearing that kind of across the board. Sleep is our body's most restorative process when it's functioning properly. And so when we can help the body to be able to do that, then that's again where the body can do its most magic.
So, Miss Betty, so one of the things that we are trying to do with this podcast series, we have provided lots of services, and we've never gone out for donations. We've never looked for donors.
Okay.
So we've got some really big plans on the horizon. We've got, for the lack of a better name at this point, we're starting with Camp Recovery.
Okay.
We've got a piece of property out by Luther.
Mm-hmm.
It's 40 acres of trees and a pond, and
Cool.
it's a beautiful piece of property that we'd like to build a building out there for a chamber where we can bring veterans around the country in 12 at a time to dive with us twice a day. In a 30-day period, they can get their 40 days, their 40 sessions plus. And we want to bring in additional therapies to that.
Okay.
We also do red light therapy is one. We do the neurooptimal, which is a neurofeedback therapy. So we have a lot of other components to this that somebody that comes in 30 days, it's life-changing. I think Lyndon can speak to a lot of our people that have come through here. It changed their life. And the reason we can't do people out of town is it costs more for a hotel than it does for the program we've put together. So that's what we're trying to close the gap on that. So donating, we also have a vehicle donation program that,
Oh, that's cool.
if you got an old vehicle that you're getting ready to trade in, if you want to get a tax
deduction
deduct
for it,
on that, turn
absolutely.
that vehicle in, we're turning that into cash. And, just locally, we've got a lot of veterans here locally that need this. And I think a lot of them don't come because they don't like charity. But when you look at the people that are trying to support this, you guys, it's owed to you. You went and stood in the gap where I didn't have to go. And that's why we're trying to do what we're doing. You went and gave it up, and then you come back all beat up. And it's time that the VA is not doing what we need them to do. We're trying to supplement that. I think if we all work together, in fact, there's a symposium coming up the middle of, and I want you to go.
Okay.
I'll make you aware of it. But all of the people that are supporting the veterans that are outside of the federal government that are doing this to support them by donations, there's a symposium that we're all trying to get together and share data, share information, and find a way to get all these services to all these veterans in need.
Absolutely.
So I will share that with you, and we'll probably do another podcast before then. That I'll reach out to some of the other people that I know you're working with a bunch of veteran organizations. So we all need to come together at that symposium and work together and see how we can make that happen.
Absolutely. I work with his name's Rob Spide Rob from Rob and Sons Dispensary in Shawnee. They're part of a program called Project 22 that helps veterans with free medicine every month on the 22nd. In honor of the 22 veterans that we lose to suicide. And so I'm definitely trying to be as actively involved in that. And it's for the similar reasons as you. I didn't serve. My father served. And when 9/11 happened, I went to a recruiting office and I was 87 pounds over the weight limit. And I didn't at the time have the resilience and fortitude to handle that. And I went most of my life realizing that I was a person that probably should have served. And so now in my 40s, I was, just seeking a way to
That guilt just sneaks up on you, doesn't it?
Well, it's, it's not even guilt. I don't think we make mistakes. I think we make choices, but I think it made for an opportunity now to serve in a different way.
Yep.
And so to me, that is an honor and a privilege. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
We need to get Rob in here. You ought to invite him to come dive with you.
Absolutely. You better have a long podcast if we're going to get Rob in
Well,
here.
I would love to meet him, and I think that's what we need to do. We have to share this information and get people in here. I think we can all benefit. So anyway, it's very nice meeting you.
Absolutely. Thank
Appreciate
you so
being
much
here.
for your time, guys. I appreciate you.
Yep. Look
Appreciate
forward
you.
to being in the chamber here in a minute.
Me
so
too. It's
thanks for
exciting.
joining us here at Hyperbarics for Heroes. And it is www.hyperbaricsforheroes.org. The number is 405-938-1475. And if you got any anything, you got any interest in helping us, that's great. If you got any questions, if you know somebody in trouble, if you know anybody in trouble, you cannot wait. The way I got into this is somebody at church was in trouble, and I had just met a gentleman that did hyperbarics. And he said, Paul, don't let him walk away. He's at the end. And he was. And he was in a chamber that afternoon on a Sunday afternoon, and it was life-changing. And it changed my life when he ran into some obstruction with the VA on him trying to get better using hyperbarics. That's when I started being a volunteer, and it's blossomed into what I'm doing now 14 years later.
It's beautiful.
So pretty neat. We got a chamber up in Tulsa that
that's
we're
cool.
we're getting ready to, in fact, I got a event I'm going to tonight with the person that wants to open that chamber in Tulsa. So we're looking for a location. If anybody out there has a building that would be rented for a good price that we can drop this chamber in, we're looking for about 3,000 square feet, and we'd have a chamber going up in Tulsa.
Absolutely. So people can find me on social, the easiest on my actual personal social, Joshua Edward Graston on Facebook. My companies Beehive Blends and Be Elevated are both on Facebook and Instagram, or beehiveblends.com or ladderlaboratory.com.
Wow, I thought I had a lot to keep up with.
Yeah, I don't even have a business card because it won't all fit.
I got you. Well, Josh, thanks for being here, and thank you all again for joining us. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next show. Thank you.
Thank you.